Yes, we can.
All right. Good evening. Good
Yes, we
evening.
can.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Uche, Stanley, and Taiwo. Um, we're back on the block. Back on the block to make it happen. So it was an interesting week for me because I had to do something small in the house, and it ended up being that as I will do always, apply project management to everything I do. So I look at it from scratch. So what's the purpose? What am I going to do? What's the sole aim? And I just normally I'll just go through that process. So initiated it, looked at the planning, executed it, monitored what I was executing, did a bit of control to see what was happening, and um ended up finishing, and it was fine. So for me, like I say, it is what it is. So from where we stopped last week, I was just going to do a short recap. Can anybody help us with what we did last week? As in your own understanding of what we did last week? Sorry, we want to build the cat. I think I'm just going to call him because this one we might just be dodging. So Taiwo should build the cat for us. Sorry, Taiwo, can you hear me?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. What did you say?
Yeah, I said, do you want to share with us your understanding of what we did last week?
Okay, and briefly, we just ran through the tasks in every stages of the project management project. Like
Okay.
if you are applying project management to whatever project you're working on, so we ran through the some tasks there, like the initiation stage, where we get to identify stakeholders, conduct feasibility studies, develop project charter. Then also in the planning phase, where we get to define scope, create a work breakdown structure, execution stage, where we get to execute the project plan and manage resources, allocate resources as well. Um, uh, that's part of what I noted down, but I'm still going to watch the recording again and get up to speed.
Okay, that's fine. Stanley, do you want to share with us?
Okay, I think Taro said it already as established. Where there are five stages of project management, and then what we simply looked at are the components that consist of those stages.
Yeah.
Starting from the initiation to the execution to the planning to the monitoring and control and then the closure. So we're looking at the tasks that involve each of these stages, what is expected to be done and all there is.
Yeah.
So I think that was this a summation of what we were.
What it is. Yes, you're right. So I'm just going to ask a question. How important is the project charter?
The project charter is that to me, sir.
And yeah, either you or Taiwo. I think Uche also can give us a response. Though. It's not a so
Okay.
anybody can give us what's it, how important is the project charter?
For me, from my little understanding of the entire class, a project charter it's as important as the project itself because it gives it's the authorization you need. It gives you uh,
Absolutely.
your
Absolutely.
framework and all. Even without a project charter, there is no project. You don't have any legal right to say you are engaged.
Ah,
So
yeah.
I think that's my understanding of it.
Yes. 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 You're right. You're very right. So, like I said last week, and I think upper week as well, The project
you
charter
mentioned that the signature of the sponsor on the project charter too is very key.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So a project charter without the signature is just a document. It's a paper document. You know the way you take a check to the bank without it being signed is worthless. You can't cash money. That's where a project charter without the project sponsor signature is. So it's pretty important. It's, for me, it's the most important document to hold as a project manager. It gives you authority to do, to select, to pick, to draft people into your team, to engage managers, to engage stakeholders. So it gives you that freedom, and in all honesty, it gives you what I'll call the respect. So people will end up respecting you on that project. So easily when you call for something, they know you've got some authorization. Everybody is willing to give a go. It doesn't mean that in real life project, managers don't say no, especially for resources, despite the fact that you have that. But that's where also your stakeholder management comes into play. So you need to be able to have analyzed your stakeholders, through your stakeholder register. You need to have identified, the kind of importance and the kind of role they'll play. And the way you also will communicate with them in terms of engagement. Like I said last week, stakeholders are important. They can derail your project if for whatever reasons they're not properly captured. It could just turn out, upside down, with someone just standing in and throwing in this, I say they throw the spanner into the wheel. They just throws the spanner and that's the end of it. Can anybody give me some of the important deliverables from the initiation stage? I think this time I'm going to call Taiwo. Taiwo, can you tell us?
The stakeholder management plan.
From initiation, not project plan, not planning, initiation stage. Okay. What
initiation. Okay, yeah, it's a project charter deliverable.
Yeah, project charter is deliverable.
Okay, project charter.
Project charter.
What else?
Stakeholder identification.
Risk log.
Yeah, risk register / plan.
Register. Yes.
You won't have a stakeholder plan, but you have a stakeholder register.
Okay, register.
Yeah, you have register.
Okay.
So you know who are the important people on your project.
Okay.
A comprehensive list that shows you're going to have Mr. A and Mr. B, and this is what they'll be doing. You're going to have that on your register. Yes, you'll have a risk management plan, that shows the risk management plan at the initiation is pretty high level. It won't be as detailed as what you do at the planning stage, but it will kind of give you a summary of likely things that might go wrong, impact probability of them. That's what you end up fleshing out at the planning stage. But you're gonna have the a summary of that at your initiation. What else do you think we're gonna have at initiation?
What kind of what?
What other documents do you think we'll have at initiation?
Maybe like the feasibility study report.
Yes, correct.
And business case if need be.
Yeah, kind of something that gives you the details of what it is.
Okay.
Then you'll have what we call the kickoff summary, kickoff agenda meeting that shows official start of the project. Sometimes it doesn't. On some of my own projects, some has had an entirely large team for kickoff. Some had just pretty small team with heads of department at kickoff. So it just gives everybody that form of introduction into, we're going to do this project, and these are the things we're going to do within the project. What we're going to expect of everybody. The ones that didn't have the extended team had people that were managing the team, and they were going to release their team members. So it was some form of kickoff there. Others whereby what we basically had was a few here and there resources and project coordinators and some project resource to do the project. So basically, you will have that. What do you think? What do we get as part of what we get at the planning stage? Excuse me.
I didn't get that question.
As in, what are some of the output from a planning stage? That one should be straightforward for all of us. We've mentioned some of it already today.
Creating a risk register, and then breaking down the different stages of the project.
So when you break down, what do we call that?
Work
Graphic
breakdown
or
structure?
Yeah, work breakdown structure. That's what we call it. When you break down into the smallest deliverable packages. That's a work breakdown structure. So you'll have step 1, step 1.1, step 1.2. So if step 1 is, for example, like I said, create the foundation for the house. 1.1 will be reading the plan and digging. 1.2 might be pouring initial cement for block work. 1.3 might be, putting the initial block, So you kind of break down each of those tasks to the minutest of what we will do. That's what we'll have in the work breakdown structure. It helps us to be able to know what's going to be done. Eventually, it helps to also define the longest part, the shortest part for a project. So it helps you to know what's the longest duration you can have with this project if you go this route. What happens if you go the other route? What will be the shortest part? You'll have that when you have a full work breakdown structure. What else do we have at the planning stage as an output?
The project management plan,
Yes.
where we have the
What's inside the project management plan?
the schedule, resources,
Yeah. The scope
and budgets or cost.
communication plan, a cost plan, what are we going to spend, what are we buying, where we buying from, purely called procurement. So you have a procurement plan inside, you have a resource management plan inside, you have those basic details. So what else do you think we get at the planning stage? I mentioned something last week. I said that there used to be 3 cardinal points for a project for measurement. Project previously was measured by scope, cost, and schedule. And I said we've had additional to that because they're also very important. I mentioned one key one. I said, if you do within budget, you deliver to scope and schedule, but that is missing. Your project might still be a failure. Can anybody remember that?
Quality, is that quality?
Absolutely, yes, quality. Because
Quality.
if you've done all the work and quality is substandard, you are likely going to have what we call reworks in project, whereby your project is just sent back. Because at the end of the day, the customer is not satisfied with your final delivery. Yeah, so part of what we enjoy today, which is infused already in project management, is what we call the agile framework, whereby you're able to deliver a minimum viable product. You can deliver in smaller chunks, so that at the start you actually could have given your customers some form of prototype before the final deliverable. What that does is when you have a prototype, it gives a view of what is meant to be. Sorry, someone's calling.
Sorry.
It gives you a view of what it should be, but at the same time, you are able to quickly know what differences you might have with your customers. So it's a form of for me, it's an interactive engagement with the customer. When you use Agile, you're easily going back to your customer. Now, funnily, the terms might differ a bit. So you've got what you call in Agile, you have what we call a product owner. You have your project manager, which sometimes is called the Scrum Master. But it's just for me a different framework. It just brings to fore that just like I said in previous conversations, you have changes sometimes in the course of the project. Remember, I said, well, you're meant to have a change control board. The change control board should approve your change. That's PMI, project management. In Agile, a change can come in, is discussed during the daily meeting. Sorry, excuse me. And that's it. Discussed and they accept. Can we go ahead with it? How does it change? If they feel it's something that will have a bigger impact, it's taken back, fed into the next sprint, find a way to accommodate it. If it's not something they can accommodate, it becomes another project somewhere in the future, a version 2 most probably. But they find a way to accommodate that. In project management, we have a scope. Remember, you have a charter that I signed off, means my deliverable is already cast in stone. Yes, we try to accommodate change, but you can't so for example, you can't decide that you want a 3 story building, and after we finish the first floor, you wake up and decide that at this point I want to make it 5-story. In PMI framework, you can't change that because it's one stage after another. Now, if you want that, it means we need to change the foundation, which is impossible. Unfortunately, in Agile is somewhere where you can come and introduce that kind of change, though it cannot be in construction fully. I've seen it used in construction, but it can't be in full construction. It's used most times in software development because it's easier to quickly, make changes, do a version 1, version 2. In the other types of project that you will have, it's a bit tricky for you to have major changes introduced that will alter the end product that we've signed off in the project charter. So basically, that's for me a major change. So in the planning stage, we have all our documents ready. You have your project management plan, you have your stakeholder management plan, you have your resource management plan, everything detailed, so that at the end of the day, you have what it is in terms of a plan to deliver a project. So that execution stage, monitoring and control, they're just following through that process. So let's start today. Last week we went through this project, but I just thought it was that let's go over it again. Now that Uche is even here, I think it will be a bit easier. So the project we have today is called Hosting a University Technology Fair. Like I said, you've got the initiation stage whereby we define what the project is. We look at the business case for that project, and we get it approved, to get it signed off by the project sponsor. I presume at this stage, Hosting a University Technology Fair will be signed off either by most probably the Vice Chancellor or Pro Chancellor, or sometimes it might be for a faculty, so the Dean of the faculty is signing it off. But basically, that's what you have. So you have a business case whereby you can quickly see what the objective of the project is. You can see what the scope is. You can see what's the purpose of the fair. So here it says we're identifying the purpose of the technology fair, which is just to showcase what students have done in terms of projects, showcase potential employers for students, showcase potential form of maybe introductory steps for students to be able to get some work experience, maybe internship and the likes, might be what we want to achieve with the technology fair. We'll have defined the scope and the objective in details. This is what we want to achieve. This is how we want to achieve it. We'll have all stakeholders identified. So you're talking students, faculty members, sponsors, should we need or have need of, external businesses, non-academic staff, everybody that will be involved in making the technology fair a success. Remember last week I mentioned that, for me, just thinking through it as a university, the minutest of it will be indicating that your stakeholders include non-academic staff. Because if they go on strike at the point when you're doing that fair, it might mean that there won't be energy, there won't be electricity to the location, which will make it either that you won't be able to do it fully, or somewhere in the middle of it, you're not able to get what you want to get. Then you've got the full project charter that shows the justification, includes the objective, includes the key stakeholders. Like I said, at initiation stage, you have an high risk, you have an high level risk plan or risk register. Risk that shows you, okay, this is a likely risk you're gonna have. You've got the high level stakeholder register as well. Now, deliverables for this is a project charter. Shows us a document that shows all what we've spoken about in terms of events, purpose, objectives, stakeholders. It gives the project manager authority to utilize resources. Project charter, I will reiterate over and over again, very important. It gives you the go ahead to do anything project. So you're able to utilize resources, you're able to do what you expected of. Stakeholder register will be included. You have all the individuals that have interest that can influence that project. So you have details that shows Professor A, maybe not in your faculty, but is a maybe visiting professor somewhere, might have influence on that technology fair, which means if it's not carried along, it could become an issue. A typical example for me was I was trying to do a project some years ago with University of Ibadan. Sorry, I'm going to mention full names there. And we thought we'd engage everybody. So we spoke to the VC, we spoke to the DVCs, we spoke to the dean. We did all those conversations. We spoke to the people in the non-academic staff, but we didn't fully carry along the guys that manage power. We just spoke to their head, who said everything was fine. Lo and behold, at the implementation stage, we were stopped. And simply because they said, because of the way they ran power, they refused to allow anybody fly cables for any project. So that project had to be cancelled. Despite the fact that everything else was ready. We had a sign off, VC sign off for doing the project. It was a CSR, but at the end of the day, just that missing link of, you spoke to the head of power, you spoke to the non-academic staff, but we spoke to the unit head, but we didn't speak to the guy that was sitting behind the controllers, who comes up and says, I've been here longer than every other person, and there's a document that says we will not fly anything. Rather, everything we need to dig, which wasn't part of what the plan was. And, that just kind of changed the trajectory of that project. So your stakeholder register must always be concluded. You must make it inexhaustive, whereby you have kind of itemized everybody that you can think of that will be a showstopper to your project. Everybody that needs to be carried along. Sometimes in doing this, you will do a lot of requirement gathering, elicitation. You will ask questions. This is where your organizational process assets will come into play. Things that happen in projects in the past within that environment. So you can easily read through documents and say, okay, why they did maybe this project or that project in time past. This was the stakeholders they had. This is kind of similarity between what they did and what we want to do. That is pretty important. You need to have those updates, because if without it, you actually might be running your project off from the start. You have what we call the planning stage for this hosting a university technology fair.
Sorry,
Like I
please.
said,
Taiwo is asking to be accepted.
sorry.
Okay. The Taiwo was asking to be accepted. He just couldn't. Yes.
Oh, okay. Is he in now? Yeah, he's in. I can
Yes.
see.
Yes, I mean, thank you.
All right, that's fine. I hope. Do you want me to go back a bit?
Yes, just a bit, just a bit.
Okay. So I was saying that I'm not sure where you lost us, but uh, I was talking about the stakeholder register again, and I made an example of a project at University of Ibadan. How not engaging one person, despite engaging the groups, his head, his sectional head, and every other relevant people we thought derail the project just by not engaging it. It comes up with an information that wasn't accessible to us that says you cannot fly a cable, you need to dig, and that wasn't the plan. So that wasn't captured in any of the budget, in any of the costs. Nobody to fund it, and so be it. So for I'm saying that your stakeholder register must be inexhaustive. You must think of every other person that is important in a project, no matter how little you think they might be. The way we say things back in Nigeria, whereby we say the gate man is as important as the MD in a company, because if the gate man says MD is not around and you have a note to come and get a contract that is going to lapse by 12 p.m., the gate man can be the one to derail you from getting it. So for me, that's where I see stakeholder register. You need to capture everybody. It's no matter how little you think they are, they're important to your project. They need to be informed. They need to be carried along. Now, at the planning stage, we develop what we call a comprehensive plan addressing every aspect of our project, everything that we can think about. So we start thinking from the full project management plan, which includes the scope, the budget, the schedule, the cost, human resource, material resource, quality, communication. You have all those details in your project management plan. Then you have what we call the work breakdown structure. We just spoke about it. Um, you create the task to the minutest level. You have a risk management plan that shows your risk and also shows your mitigation strategy. How do you respond to the risk? Risk can either be accepted, averse, or transferred. You need to have a strategy to um, answer to that risk. You need to answer the risk. So when
Sorry,
that
sir.
risk,
Taiwo is back out again. Okay, he's back. But he was saying his network is giving him issues.
Yeah,
wow,
sorry for the distraction. Oh, sorry, my network.
are you using three?
I'm using my mobile Wi-Fi because I'm
Is
not.
it three? Is your
You said
network three?
Is
Is
it
your
three mobile?
network three? Three.
EE.
Okay. Maybe it
Yeah,
depends on where you are. Sorry to burst your bubble. Network is bad everywhere in the world. So let's not think it's only in Nigeria. No, it's the truth. Technology is the same thing, like I tell people. So depending on how technology has been implemented wherever you find yourself, it might just be more peculiar somewhere else. But it's the same thing. All right. So in terms of planning, you create a work breakdown structure. Like I said, that's the smallest package you can have for a project. Smallest task. The smallest. as in break to the way, the way we look at how small can this be. Smallest task. This is the smallest, tiniest of it, of what we can do in a project. That's what you have in a work breakdown structure. It helps you to calculate your time in terms of how long it will take you to deliver, in terms of what's the longest part, shortest part. You can use the work breakdown structure for a couple of analysis and reports on in terms of your project. Also, you have your risk management plan, whereby you define your risk, possible risks that can happen, and responses to it. What will you do if that risk happens? Are you going to accept it? Are you going to avoid it? Are you going to transfer it?
Sorry, sir.
Yes?
In creating a WBS, are they static?
When you say are they static, as in, are they, when you've created it?
Yeah, must you keep that log when a WBS has been created? What I mean is, sometimes even in building a house, for instance, you might say, I need to um, perhaps plaster the house before I tie the floor. And then at a point, you discover that given one economic benefit or the other, you need to tie before you plaster to make some benefit or to ease the work. So in making a WBS, I must still follow the already agreed sequence in the WBS till the end of the project, or it could be maneuvered.
In proper project management framework, yes, it's cast in stone. In agile, you can tweak. That's what I was trying to explain agile along with this. In agile, you can tweak. You can tell this, okay, maybe let's do this first. Though we didn't agree that that's what we're going to do first. But the way WBS is, it's you put in a step-by-step route to doing your project, which means you've actually thought it through from the start. So that means at the start is when you'll have analyzed, do I want to plaster before I tile? Or do I want to tile and plaster at the same time? You understand? So it's something you'll have thought through from the start, which is part of what you will have used to generate your risk. So you'll have most probably written a risk around it that says, if I don't plaster and I go and tile, this is what's going to happen. There's likelihood of what might happen. And if it happens, this is what I'll do. So you can say, okay, if I don't tile and I start plastering, there's a likelihood that I might have more broken tiles. If I have more broken tiles, how do I resolve it? You understand? You'll have used your work breakdown structure to do that. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then you develop a procurement plan. Pretty important. You need to know where to source for materials, where you're going to get materials from.
Sorry, Tunde.
Yes?
Sorry. If you don't mind, I would like to speak on that work breakdown structure.
All right.
So, Stanley, a WBS is not a static document, okay? It evolves over time. All right. So just like Tunde mentioned, so when it comes to agile, right, you can accept changes based on the feedback from the stakeholders. Okay, but if you are using other project management methodologies such as the waterfall, right, and when there's a change, okay, the change would have to go through the change management process. Okay, when that change is approved, there's a possibility that your WBS would have to change.
Yeah.
Remember, your WBS is high requirement broken down into smaller tasks. So it is possible that the approved change has affected some of those high requirements that has been broken down. Okay, so that's why we say a WBS is not a static document, rather it's a living document that evolves over time. So when there are changes, as long as those changes have been accepted and approved, you could modify your work breakdown structure to reflect those new changes. I just thought I should just add to what Tunde has said. I hope that is clear.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Manny. All right. So you also develop a procurement plan, which shows, okay, so this is what we're going to source for materials from, so we're going to source for services from, this is how we're going to get this for the fair. Remember that I said part of your procurement plan might also include a document or a plan of sourcing for staffs. Yes, it will fall into your resource management plan, but it will also fall into your procurement plan as well, because there's some form of sourcing that you're going to do. So you have your procurement plan to source for materials and services needed for this fair. So in this University Technology Fair, we'll have developed a procurement plan to say, okay, we need to buy, for example, we need to buy tables to set up, or we need to buy gazebos so that people coming in for the fair will be able to stay under the gazebos, or we need to lease the gazebos and there's a contract for leasing. So you have all of that included in your procurement plan for the University Technology Fair so that everything is catered for. Basically, like I said, at the planning stage, you have every of your detail clearly spelled out and catered for. Deliverables will be your project management plan, detailed documents outlining what you need to do, how you want to approach the project itself in terms of delivering the project. You use the like I've mentioned, the 10 knowledge areas. You will look through all the 10 knowledge areas in terms of how is your project going to be delivered across that knowledge area. You also have your work breakdown structure and schedules, visual representation of the tasks broken down for the technology fair. How do we achieve the scope for this fair? What's task one all the way to the end? How do we undo task one to the end? What would we do? You also have a risk management plan. We've identified our risk. Remember that from initiation, we have an high level risk register. At the planning stage, you have a full risk plan whereby you have all identified risk. You have likelihood of them happening, the impact, and your answers to them when they happen. What do you do? How do you manage that risk when it happens? Then you have your procurement plan that says what needs to be procured, who are you procuring from, and when are you procuring. Part of what you get in procurement stage for a plan is also being able to determine things that you need later. Because so the question in project management is when you do a procurement plan, you don't necessarily need to buy all your materials upfront. In quote, that might bring you additional cost, either in terms of logistics or in terms of warehousing. So if you decide to buy everything, you might actually be paying more for warehousing as against buying it later. Maybe you buy 2 weeks into when you need. All you've just done is most probably part of the procurement plan says, I've given the supplier an upfront. I have a confirmation that says he will supply if I've given him 60% upfront or some percent upfront. But this is the day that you want. Now you most probably have identified that as a risk in your risk register, and you've implemented some form of response to it before happening. So in terms of you said, okay, there's a likelihood that I don't have a storage and it will be costing me more to store. So I'm buying from Okeke and Co. And it should supply me whatever I need in the 5th week. Means to him, he's happy to sell to you, but not fully understanding that is helping you to bear the cost of warehousing for the 5 weeks that you will not be needing it. So it basically warehouses for you, supplies you at the point where you need it. So it may most probably just warehouse for a few days or maybe a week to use. So you have that procurement plan for this technology fair whereby you can buy everything you want when you want to buy it, who you're buying from, and when they're supplying you or when they're bringing it. At the execution stage, we look at how will we deliver this technology fair? Who are we working with? Which teams will we be working with? Which resources are we working with? How will the work go? This is where you look at that as an objective. So you actually break that down as a task in terms of having weekly meetings So in projects, you have basically, depending on what you've said as a project manager, for some people, they would rather have a weekly team meeting to look at project progress and issues that have come up in the project and how to address those issues. Some people feel it should be bi-week, it should be bi-monthly. So every two weeks, you have a meeting to just do a review of what's happening. Where are you at the moment? Are you according to plan? Is there any challenges anybody's experiencing? Then you look at how to fix it. At the execution stage, you manage procurement. So you're talking to vendors, you're talking to suppliers, you're trying to find out, yes, based on what we shared, and maybe your own part of the commitment that you fulfill. How far with deliverables? Is it coming on the day we've asked for? Will it arrive? So you're able to manage your procurement. Then you oversee the setup of that event venue. Like I said, your procurement might have involved things like gazebos in terms of roofing for people that will be showcasing whatever they have at the wares. Might include some form of furniture, some form of energy provision, different things that might happen. You'll have done that in terms of procurement. Then the overall setup of the event venue could include technology display, guest accommodation, so in addition to all what you plan for, you also start implementing things like how do you manage guests coming in. So are there people that you need to have put in guest house? It's easier for them to come for that event. Then you implement quality management. So you ensure that every standard are met. Like I said, if you've done a project and it's not according to standard, you actually might be running foul. So you might be at a space where you think you finished the project, but at the end of the day, you're going to do a rework because it's not according to what the customer wants. So quality is always key in terms of project. What are we doing? Are we doing to specification? Are we meeting customer specification? Which is very important. The moment that is done, it means there's some form of traction and we're seamless. Looking at I want to deliver deliverables are regular updates on status of the project. You cover the scope, you cover the schedule, and you cover the cost every time. So let's put that at the back of our mind when we talk about feedback from the planning stage. We're talking about status update report. What's happening in the project? Are we covering the scope? Are we where we should be? What exactly is lagging? Are we ahead in anything? At the review stage or at the reporting stage, you kind of do a proper engagement as a project manager on your project, or as anybody reporting the project. For example, if you have a project administrator, that person will have interpreted the project manager to know that everything is on course. Then you have procurement documents, contracts, purchase orders, receipts, any form of material that speaks to the project. So you have every procurement document that you need for materials and services at this point as a deliverable for hosting a technology fair. Now we're at monitoring and control. So remember I said monitoring and control sometimes goes interwoven with execution. So while you're executing, you're also monitoring and control the project. So at this stage, you track the performance. Remember that we have a work breakdown structure. We've got what at the planning stage, you have some of the documents that are called baseline, cost baseline, schedule baseline. You have the thing that give us an idea of what we should do, an idea of where we should be in the project. So we actually track project performance and make necessary adjustments to ensure that there's success for the project. Just like Manny said, at this stage you might be dealing with things like changes. So you might have change introduced in the project, and you will have the project manager ensure that the proper project management change project change management process has been implemented, whereby you take your change, evaluate the change, and make sure to log with the change control board. come there for what we call a change management defense of that change, showing what will happen if it's implemented, what are the pros and the cons, and also what's the exit strategy. Should it be implemented and it doesn't pass? So are we reverting to the old? If we're able to revert to old, if we can't revert to the old, what do we revert to? A typical monitor and control would be an organization that said that they want to upgrade the Windows profile for all their laptops at a certain time of the day. So they've engaged everybody, they've got an approval. This space will be where you have a few people going around to check, okay, we're deploying 1,000 systems within the organization. How many of them have been able to, get what it needs to do it? So you are monitoring, you're controlling what's happening. Should there be need for a change? So, for example, at that stage, you rolled out your software and you find out that some of them have blue screen. You most probably might be stopping to quickly look at, should we include a patch? How do we manage it? How do we manage this project in terms of ensuring that you can deliver based on what you've designed? So at this stage, you have tasks such as monitoring and progressing management, performance, to use your performance measures, you have KPIs to watch out for, use control scope by managing change requests, you adjust your schedule and budget. Should there be needs to do that? And this also could be as a result of your change management process for you to adjust your schedule and budget. Most time it is because a change might have necessitated the fact that you will be spending one extra week, or you'll be spending 10% more, 20% more, or might be that you're spending one week less and you're spending 10, 20% less. It does not always mean that when you introduce a change, it means that cost will go higher. Most times it does, sometimes it doesn't. Also, you need to engage risk monitoring and controlling of devices at this stage. You need to find out what's happening to the risk, what's happening to what I've identified as a likelihood of something that can go wrong. How do I control this? How do I put checks and balances so that this risk really doesn't occur and doesn't derail my project? So you have all of that response implemented. Deliverables are document that shows the performance indicator of each of the projects has been done. So you have some form of performance reporting. Sometimes this performance reporting might become a disseminating factor. So typically, it could be what tells you if you want to do a go or no go for the project. So you've got that in it. Then you have change logs as an output also at this stage, whereby every change that has been requested is detailed there. So you have the ones approved with details of approval, details of implementation. You have the ones denied as well with details of why they were denied. So you have all those. Then you have an updated risk register here, because risk register is like the WBS is a live document throughout your project. You actually end up updating them regularly, because what that does is, when you have your risk register updated regularly, you're picking new risk and you might have envisaged in the course of you implementing that project. So you're quickly identifying that there's likely that this might go wrong. What's the probability around it happening? So you actually have a measure to it. Is this something you should be bothered with, or is it something you should just sweep and say, okay, this is minimal. When it happens, we can engage and find a way to resolve. Now,
Sorry, sir.
Yes, Stanley, go ahead.
Can you go back to the deliverables? I was going to ask a question, sir. Okay. One of the things you talked about in the talks was that the monitoring project progress. To monitor a project progress, we need to check the progress using performance measurement techniques.
Yes.
Then you went further to say in the deliverables, we're going to make performance measurement reports. So what are these performance measurement techniques? How do we ascertain what techniques do we use to ascertain the progress of a project to be sure that it's going as planned? Or is there a specific chart? Is there a specific document or something we look at to say, okay, these are the variables we expect to meet up with, and with this we can say yes, the project is progressing or otherwise. I don't know if you understand my question, sir.
Yes. So you want to find out what are the things you will measure against.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd mentioned two things very key in project. At the planning stage, you have developed what you call the schedule baseline and a cost baseline. Schedule baseline shows this is kind of minimum time we're going to spend on this project. Everything working perfectly. So you have that as a document kept from your planning stage. Same thing for cost baseline. So at this stage, you are measuring against your schedule baseline and your cost baseline. So you're trying to find out, am I within schedule or am I above schedule? Have I extended beyond what I should do? So, for example, if your schedule says you should deliver the project in 6 weeks, and these are the tasks you should have done. When you are doing your monitoring and control, you actually might be at the stage where you find out that in the 3rd week, you should have achieved 70%, or for example, you have achieved 40% or 50%. But when you look at it in that 3rd week, you are either at 20% or you are higher. That's easier for you to know because you've got a baseline to measure against. So you got the baseline to say, I should be here at this point.
Yeah.
If you are not there at that point, that already gives you a flag to say, okay, something is not going the way it should go if you are lagging behind. If you are ahead, yes, all well and good. Now, that is for schedule. So schedule, when you are ahead, is good. When you are below, is not. So you have what we call the cost performance index, CPI, and the schedule performance index, SPI. Key thing to note, when schedule is above, schedule is fine. When schedule is negative, then there's a problem. No, sorry. When schedule is, when your schedule, let's say you should be in week 3 and you should have done 40%. If in week 3 you've done 50%, which means you are ahead, you are fine. But if in week 3 you've done 30 or 20%, it means you are not fine. Do you understand? Stanley, did you get what I just said?
Yes, understood, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. But for cost, if your cost is higher, it means you're overshooting your budget vis-a-vis the week where you're in. If your cost is lower, it means you're fine. So it's either you are on the budget or over budget. Over budget means flag. It's a red flag. Under budget means I think we're fine. We're presumably good when you're on the budget.
Okay. So when you're over budget, how do you
So when you have a budget, you need to look at what's happening in your project. It means so you draw the cost baseline. You need to find out what you've done and what is not going right. So, for example, you have you've done your procurement management plan. So what will have changed? Because it's possible. So is it that we need to now look at a change process for this? Is it that when we costed the project, for example, it was before the new dispensation of the new democratic rule, which happened in Nigeria. So you costed the project and you were going to buy materials and everything, and dollar was pegged at 418. When you eventually started the project, and in the course of the project, you now have the new policy, and dollar is at 1,000 naira. Surely you'll be over budget. So at that point, you'll have to submit a change request so that you can update your cost. So you need to go to the change control board. Probably will include your project sponsor, whereby they will look at, okay, so we're doing this project. This is the initial cost benefit analysis we did. So when we decided to do the project, we felt if we do it at 1 million naira, we'll be making profit. Now, because of foreign exchange policy change, we might be shooting to, for example, 40 to 1,000 is 2.5, almost like 2.5. So which means you'll be spending 2.5 million naira as against 1 million naira. Remember, you have not budgeted for it. So two things might have happened. You don't even have the funds to finish that project, which is one of the reasons why I'm going to change board. So change board is to approve and say, okay, yes, you accept that there's this challenge, we're going to accept it. Then the sponsor and some of the stakeholders might look at, okay, we need to find a way to source for funds to do this project. Or do we need to change the scope of the project? So maybe instead of delivering a full-blown project, can we scale down by 40%? So we can still spend within 1 million, but we won't deliver as much as we said initially. Do you understand? Hello, Stanley.
Yeah, I'm with you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I said, so
Yeah,
do you
I'm with
understand? So at this stage, you know, so you have those measurement indices to check through. And like I
Okay.
said, it's typical, it can happen. So you need to find out, are we right? Are we wrong? What do we do? Are we going to change board? How do we manage this? A couple of times you actually might need to go to the change board because you're lagging behind for things that maybe have gone beyond your control as a project manager. So there might be a change introduced to say we need to move X, Y, Z, or maybe we need to get 2 additional resources. Now, not all changes means that things are bad. Not all changes that lead to cost increase means that things are bad. So you might actually be in the middle of a project and you find out that for you to meet the schedule, you need to increase your resources, which will increase your costs. Take to change control board, get it approved and says, okay, we're going to get 2 additional resources, means we'll be shooting our budget by maybe 20%. When that happens, man, you won't say what?
Yes, sorry, Tunde. I know this is your class. I just want to, Stanley, do you, has Tunde done justice to your question around performance measurement? Do you,
Anyway,
are you happy with the clarification? Because your silence seems like
no, I'm listening, and I think I'm digesting. Like you already know. This is completely a new field for me. So
yes.
some of the things when they say we try to imagine and then infuse it into our day-to-day activity to get a proper picture of what is expected of us. So
Okay.
until I found myself in the real operational need where I need to get
No,
a job done,
you have to find yourself in that environment now, because that is what is going to enable you pass those interviews and get a job, right? So just like Tunde mentioned, okay. So in the different phases of project management, we have what we call monitoring and control.
Yeah.
That is where you monitor everything you've planned to deliver in the course of the project. And one essential document that is used for that purpose is what we call the project schedule. Okay, the project schedule breaks down all your projects, breaks down the project into tasks. Okay, those tasks are assigned to team members, and the start time and the end time is provided. Okay, so for you to be able to provide a performance measurement report, you have to rely heavily on your project schedule, because your project schedule is a living document that needs to be updated regularly as the project progresses. It gives you a clear view of where you are with each of the tasks assigned to resources within that project. For instance, you have a task assigned to a developer to develop between 1st of August to 5th of August, okay? So
Yeah.
you need to, during the monitoring and control, you need to monitor and ensure that that task is going to be delivered as planned. And one of the ways you can do this monitoring is having a daily check-ins with the resources that have been assigned to do these tasks, okay? You do
Yeah.
not just wait until the due date for you to start following up on the update of the task, okay? So sometimes we have, if it's an agile environment, we'll have a daily stand-up call, okay?
Okay.
A daily stand-up gives an opportunity for you to get from these resources, which these tasks have been assigned to, what they did yesterday, what they are going to do today, and if there are any impediments, okay? So it's an opportunity for you to get an update on the task that's been assigned to each members, okay? So let's say a task has been completed even before the due date, you update your project schedule to done. It means that that task has been completed, okay? So project schedule essentially enables you to monitor all the tasks that has been assigned to your team members, okay? One of the artifacts you'll be providing during your project would be a project schedule, okay? And I'm sure Tunde must have mentioned it to you guys. A project schedule essentially contains a detailed tasks and activities needed to complete a project. It also contains the timeline, which is a specific start date and end date for each of these tasks, okay? Then in a project schedule, we have dependencies. So for instance, you want to build a banking application, right? So how do you determine the sequence of activities? You cannot develop a login page before a sign-up page, okay? Every new customer has to sign up before they have a login details they are able to access, they are able to log on to the system. So that is how you prioritize requirement. Okay, what needs to come before what? What needs to happen next? So that determines your sequence of activities. And a project schedule, the tasks within a project schedule are prioritized and they are dependent on one another. So one activity needs to be completed before the other. Sometimes you could have tasks that are also running concurrently. Okay, so just to wrap up, a project schedule is a document that enables you to provide a performance measurement report, because it is from there that you are going to get the statistics of what you are going to be reporting. I just thought I should break down further in case you are lost as to what Tunde has explained. Thank you. Tunde, sorry for interjecting.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Thanks, Amidan. I appreciate it.
All right. So Stanley, I think we're in a good call.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Tunde.
So just note that you will have just like Manny said, the schedule performance is called schedule performance index to measure with, cost performance index to measure with. There's also what we have other things, maybe like planned value, actual cost, return on investment. Those are some form of indices you can easily check. That'll tell you, am I on the right track? Am I not on the right track? And so it helps as a project manager to quickly determine what needs to be done to correct your project and make sure it's on track.
Okay.
Yeah. So at the closure stage, typically I think this for me this is the easiest part to understand. It means we're closing the project. It means we've made deliverables, we're moving forward. Sorry, I'm trying to move something off my screen. Don't just leave it. It means we've completed the project activities, we're signing off. We're happy. We're doing a sign off where we're going to celebrate success. That we met deliverables that we had outlined for the project. That's what we do at the closure stage. At some of the tasks we do here is to conduct a post-evaluation of that phase success. And we will do that against the objectives we had. So what we're trying to achieve with that fair. A post-event evaluation will look at, okay, so did we meet what we wanted to achieve? How well did we meet that achievement? Was it in the right frame? Are we where we should be? Is that where we think we should be? So we're doing some form of measurement for the success. Yeah. So you wanted to say something?
I said something like a quality check.
Yeah, every form of check beyond quality. So you're checking, have we done what we should do? So have we achieved the scope?
Okay.
Look at the costs, look at schedule, look at quality, everything is, just a post-event evaluation. Here is also where we document lessons learned. Now, for me, lessons learned is a living document. It's something you do throughout the project. So if there's a lesson you've learned at initiation stage, it's been jotted down as the project manager. If it's at planning, it's been jotted down. All that happens at the closing stage is you are writing it down and documenting it properly to be kept in your organizational process asset immediately. So you document your lessons learned. At this point, you let go of resources that you've gotten from other teams. You release them. Then there's a final report you will share with your stakeholders. Comprehensive final report that says, okay, this is what we set to achieve with this project in terms of hosting a university fair. We've achieved it, and this is where we are. This is success. Then you organize a project closure meeting to formally close that project. Remember, at the initiation stage, we had a kickoff meeting. At closing stage, you have a closeout project meeting whereby everybody talks. For some people, is some form of celebratory, whereby people just say, okay, yes, we've done well for this project. And we're doing the meeting over pizza or something thereabout, depending on which organization you work for. Some people is just a short, brief meeting to say, yes, we finished, thank you, and you obtain your final project sign off that says project completed and sign off. Somewhere at this point, this is where people get the document that they use to get paid. So, for example, remember that you had a procurement process, you had vendors and the likes. The most probably also getting some documentations there that says, okay, everything is signed off. I can go collect my money, depending on what contract you signed with them. Deliverables for at this stage will be a closeout document. You need to have a closeout document at this stage. You have performance measurement report. You also have document that shows issues that came up on the project that were not resolved. Most times, these issues that were not resolved really didn't have an effect on the deliverables. But you are also documenting them. You are writing and say, okay, yes, we have X, Y, Z, but we couldn't fully deal with it. Yes, it may affect, but it goes into your archives so that in future people are able to read through what could also deter their own project and maybe plan for it. So you have a summary of the outcome of your project, you have a performance done, and you have all the details. You, like I said earlier, you have a lessons learned document. That this basically just talks about what went well, what didn't go well, and you provide some form of documentation so that somewhere in the future people are able to read through on likelihood of things that might affect their project. So in terms of hosting the university fair, you've written what went well. We did it well, everything was fine. What didn't go well? We had a grass layout, but apparently it was a bit on the gravel, which means people were a bit tilty because it wasn't on a level ground. So part of your lessons learned to say, okay, that's what one of the things we saw, which means for future project university fair might mean we will be doing that project either on a sport field or within a hall. It changes what it is. Or maybe you put there that yes, we had a gazebo to cover everybody. Yes, it was fine with the sun, but when the rains came, yes, the rain didn't really fall, but because of the breeze, rain, so that becomes part of a decision that you take in future to determine will you be going that route, or will you be doing an indoor, or if you do a gazebo, will you just do some form of covering around your stand? It kind of give you information on what to do next for future projects. Then there's a celebratory event also sometimes, whereby you can say proper thank you to everybody, recognize their contribution. Like I said, it could be a closeout meeting over, pizza. It could be a launch date with the team, something to celebrate everybody that has been on the team. That's what we do at the closeout stage. Can we go for a 5 minutes break, please, before we take on another example?
Okay,
Yeah,
sir.
that's okay.
Yeah, so we'll go back by 8:20, 8:22. Oh, okay. This so. Um, uh, oh, hold on, David. But plan on it, so don't be. Not yet. Thank you. Just text them. I'm gonna send them to them. It's good journey. It's good journey. Finish me color. All right. Are we all back?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Taiwo, Stanley, and Uche.
Yes, I'm back.
Yeah, I know. I said you are the one that responded. I'm
Yeah,
expecting
I'm
from
here.
Uche.
I'm
I
here.
said that was Stanley and Uche rather.
Yeah, I'm here.
Stanley's back. Is Uche back as well?
I didn't step out to have been here.
This one is wrapped attention for today. No missing the thing at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay, sorry, I need to share back. All right. Okay, so I didn't know I was sharing that. So we were looking at another project. Now we're looking at developing a personal finance management app. This is software development. This is where what Manny said earlier, we could easily have implemented a different form of project management framework. I've done agile here, but looking at waterfall, yes, it's doable. Every time we'll start from initiation, a business plan, objective, So we're putting up a project framework and ensuring that necessary approvals are secured. What are the tasks that we need to look at here? We'll define the purpose and goal of the personal finance management app. So we're looking at budget, tracking, expense logging, financial goal setting. What is the presumed need for consumers or possible customers that we're going to have? What do we think they need? Why do we think they will be needing or they will be using this new project finance management app that we want to build? So we need to ensure that all that details are kept. So can they track the budget? Can they use it to log their expense? Can they use it to set the financial goal or target? Also, we're going to identify every form of stakeholder for this development. Users, an idea is a test team, because you need to test whatever application you are building. Most times the software development, you need to have testers, you have financial advisors, you have the app development team. Sometimes your stakeholders might include existing financial institution, should in case you are linking up with them. So you need to make your list exhaustive. So you have everybody catered for. Here, you need to start developing your project charter, outlining what's your scope, what's your objective, what's your stakeholders that will be involved, what's a high level risk that you envisaged for this project. What's the deliverables we're looking at? Project charter. Initiation at the back of our mind. Always remember project charter. We want to see the project charter. We want to see the stakeholder register. So comprehensive list of the people that are likely going to be affected, by the project. What's the interest in this project? So why are they interested in the project? How will the interest affect your project? You need to know that. You need to have a high level risk register. High level, not fully breakdown yet, but you need to have a high level risk register. What could go wrong in the project? So you need to have all of that documented.
Sorry, sir.
Sorry?
Now, in at the initiation stage, in developing, in getting a project charter,
Yes.
who drafts the project charter? Is it the project manager,
Yes.
or do you draft and then go back for signing an authorization, or do they draft and hand over to you at the point of?
So let me tell you what you most probably get. You most probably get a business case developed by the business analyst. Business case will have a full document of the what, the is, the benefit, everything you can think about the project. That document handed over will be extracted into a charter. Charter, high-level summary of project objective and project scope. This is what we want to do. So here, you're saying we are going to have a project charter for developing a project management finance app. So you've had a business case on why we want to do it, what's the cost-benefit analysis, and every other details on it. We will be looking at outlining what are the objectives of developing this finance management app, what will be the scope, and who will be the stakeholders involved in it. That's what we'll do in the project charter. So you have a document that just shows who are our primary stakeholders, who are going to be involved, what's the purpose of this app, and what are the objectives. Developed by the project manager.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and end report of it is signed off by the project sponsor.
Okay, before commencing the project.
Yeah. Developed by project manager, signed off by project sponsor. Yes, most of it have input from different people, business analysts that gives a business case that forms that, you engage stakeholders, everything you will do, high level summary of it, get it signed off. You have the go-ahead document held up in your hands, most times e-copy these days, but it's signed off, is approved. It gives you authority to go ahead and spend someone's money on that project. So that's what we'll have. So a comprehensive list of stakeholders, high level comprehensive list of who are the people that will have an effect on that project, that will be affected by that project, that will be impacted by that project. So you need to have that details, high level risk register, what could go wrong. More of the charter has a lot of summary, not fleshed out yet. So you start fleshing out in your planning stage. That's when you start fleshing out. So you create the full detailed project management plan. Scope, schedule, budget, quality, resource, communication, risk, everything. So you have a plan one by one. You develop a comprehensive, detailed project schedule and work breakdown structure. Remember, I said work breakdown structure is you've broken down your tasks to the smallest, minutest part of what could happen. Smallest in an interview is called the smallest work package. Smallest work package. That's what is in project management terms. Smallest work package. It's a work package. So the smallest, minutest part will be you created a work package. That's what you have in your work breakdown structure, work package. So each work package will determine what can be done at that task. And each work package will lead to the next step. So work package 1 shows that I'm going to write the code for the front end left pane, which leads me to work package 2, which might mean I'm going to write the code for the headers and engage the UI UX designer to ensure that it's an interactive page, something like that. That's what you have in your work breakdown structure task work package. So you have that work package by work package, 1 leading to 2, 2 leading to 3, 3 leading to 4, or might be 1.1 leading to 1.2, leading to 1.3, leading to 1.4. You have a detailed project schedule, what needs to be done, start to end. Bit of detail on, so it gives a summary of how long it will take for you to do your project. Then you have your identified risk.
I was logged out.
Sorry?
I was said it's logged out.
Again, this type of network today is interesting. Let's see if it's, maybe you should change his position too. I'm not sure where he is, but sometimes changing positions help.
You're right. It's
Maybe
back.
just changing. Yeah.
It's back.
Taiwo, maybe you should try and change position. Maybe find somewhere different from where you are at the moment. Sometimes that helps. The reality of it is sometimes network how will I say it, are better in some locations, even within your house. And that's depending on how the signals are able to penetrate your building into the house. All right. Sorry? Yeah, but he's joined already, so.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, he's joined already. So you heard what I said, that maybe you should change your position.
It's way better now. It's
Okay.
way better.
So maybe you do the Nigerian style. You need to get the plan B. MTN and Glo, MTN and Airtel.
I was on my mobile before, but now I've switched to my laptop, so I'm sure it will be okay now.
Sometimes it's just what it is. So, like I said, so at the planning stage, you have a comprehensive plan for developing this app. A detailed project management plan, scope, schedule, budget, quality, resource, communication, detail. Remember, I said communication should be clearly spelled. It should have kind of incorporate part of your stakeholder management plan into your communication plan, because your stakeholders, the communication of your stakeholders will vary. Like I said last week, some people will prefer you walking up to them and explaining. Yes, you've sent an email. Yes, they've read the email, but they expect you to walk into them. So you need to understand your stakeholders, and walking to them for them might just be see them on the fly and just explain to them. These days where everybody's doing a lot of work from home, it might just mean picking up the phone and calling and speaking to them. It might just mean sending them messages in bullet points, depending on who it is. I used to have a stakeholder on majority of my project sometimes past. There's a weekly report that goes out every Sunday night. As in, I will not fail. Be sure that the update will go out that Sunday night. It might now be level 59, but that report will go out. Now, I found out that this stakeholder, despite the report going out, despite him reading the report, we still want to puncture holes. So what I learned to do was engage him, and I found out that a bullet point of SMS or WhatsApp does the magic. So I just bullet and said, we've delivered X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The report itself that I'm sending is a summary. What I've now done is to summarize the summary into bullet points. So I made it as brief as possible, concise with the detail. And that's for me knowing my stakeholder and knowing how to communicate with them. So you need to have a communication strategy, which will vary from stakeholder A to B to C to D. That's part of what you develop at the planning stage. You develop a work breakdown structure. You develop a project schedule. You identify your risk and plan risk management. Like I said, risk should have a response. Either you are accepting, you are transferring, you are mitigating. You need to have a response to that risk. How do you deal with the risk when it happens? You need to have that well written down, spelled out. And it means you've done extensive research and thought around your risks to know what might likely go wrong, probability of them going wrong, and the impact when they go wrong. And you need to plan the software architecture and technology stack for this app. So you need to find out how do we want to achieve this? What do we want to achieve? Remember, in Agile, it's easier for you to quickly do a minimum viable product. In Waterfall, you will have to follow the process till it's delivered. So we're not going to do, let's just do the front end without the back end and share with the customer. Or let's do the front end and just link to an existing database and share with the customer for them to start testing. A couple of the apps you see on App Store are just like that. They're not fully developed. They've just done front end and they pushed it out. So what they use that to do sometimes is the testing the waters, the testing acceptability. But in Waterfall, they're going to do a lot of end-to-end. So you'll have done the front end, the back end, the database. Before you say, okay, yes, let's now put this on the Play Store for people to start downloading, subscribing, or for them to start using. So you have a software architecture and technology stack developed for this app. So you know what's the architectural design, how will it play out? What's the structure we're looking at for this? How do we manage this? Are we doing Flutter Flow mixed with AWS? You will think through that technology, because in technology there's much more than what it is. A big comprehensive. Deliverables, you have your project management plan. 10 knowledge areas, which you will have that plan. 10, a comprehensive project management plan. A comprehensive, so you have your risk plan, quality plan, scope management plan, cost plan, human resource plan. You have everything detailed. So you have a plan that you can work from. Then you have a software design document which outlines what's the architecture you want to use, what's the technology choice. You have an high-level design of that app. Most times graphical that shows this is what I want to achieve, this is how it's going to be, this is how I'll work it out. Now at the execution stage, you're looking at implementing the development of your software. Remember that at start, you've looked at all the resources you're going to use, you had planned for them. Here, you start executing, you put people to work. So you're developing the app. You're looking at your technology architecture and you're ensuring that you're building based on that technology architecture. So you're developing the features based on the specifications you've written down. Then you perform iterative testing and quality assurance. A bit of mix and match agile here, whereby you are doing a bit of it. So when you do a bit, you test and say, okay, I've done maybe the front end. Is it according to plan? I've done the back end. Is it according to plan? You're able to do that testing and quality assurance for your software app. Now there will be regular team meeting for progress and addressing issues. Like Manny said, if it was agile, you'll be doing the 15-minute standalone time boxed meeting. Everybody comes in for 15 minutes and you talk about what you've done, what you need to do, and what are the issues you're having. So you speak about yesterday, as in what you've done. You speak about today, what you're going to do, Then speak about yesterday and today and tomorrow. What are the issues that you've seen? That's in quote your risk. What do you think will stop you from delivering your project? So but here you have some form of iterative testing and quality assurance, and you have a regular meeting to monitor progress. So your regular meetings might be once a week, might be twice a week, might be once in 2 weeks. So you're addressing issues on your software development. Regular meeting, normal project review meeting. Now, deliverables will be incremental release of the software for testing and feedback. So you're doing small chunks to be tested and feedback received. You're also documenting your test results. So for each testing, you document the results. What did I get? So for this phase, after testing, what did I get? Did I meet the requirement? Have I met what is expected of me? Or have I met what is expected of that application? Are we on the right path for this personal finance management app? That's what you get at the testing phase of your deliverable. Now you have a monitoring and control for it, whereby you ensure that your project is on track. So you are constantly monitoring and controlling. Like I said, monitoring and controlling flows through the life cycle of the project. Planning, execution, is flowing through. It's checking, have we done it? Is this right? Are we on track? Are we where we should be? That's what you do. So part of the task is you're monitoring your schedule, you're monitoring your scope, you're monitoring your budget, you're monitoring your quality, you're monitoring your communication plan to ensure that everything you have in place are according to what you've defined. You're measuring against the baseline. Remember, I said there's a cost baseline and there's a schedule baseline. Indices to watch out: costs, performance index, schedule performance index, planned value, are details of what you will check. Return on investment, your indices you check against. Then at this stage, you also manage any change request. Now, recall what Man said earlier. When a change request comes, sometimes it might affect your schedule, your scope, your budget, which means those documents you developed before needs to be reviewed. So if you said in the schedule that we're going to deliver within 5 weeks and a change comes in place and it will become 5.5 weeks, we need to go to our schedule management plan and change it. We need to go to our cost management plan. If any changes occur, we need to put those changes in place. So those documents are documents that you now start having version 1 and version 1.1 or 1.2. You start speaking to things that is happening within the project. So you monitor any form of change happening on your project and you're able to measure against your baseline. That's what you do. You measure against it. Then you update stakeholder and your regular status report. So the stakeholders are likely going to change in the course of your project. But because they're monitoring and controlling it, if it changes, they're quickly able to put that detail up. If it changes, you are quickly able to put that details up. So you're able to do your regular status report as well. So you have status report. Remember, the part of your communication plan is to communicate to your stakeholders. So here you've updated stakeholders and you are also updating them with the regular status report. They're getting it as at when due. What is important based on what communication plan you have identified for them. Deliverables here is regular updates on project health and progress. So you know if your project is on track, if you're going to deliver according to scope, budget, quality, and time. Then you also have your change management logs, documentation that shows change requests. Remember, change management log is where you put all the details of your change. Approved, not approved, implemented successfully, not, you have all those details included in your change management logs. So you have that basically held as a deliverable. You've kept that. Ensure that delivery for monitoring and control. Regular updates, documentation of change requests. Those are two major outputs from your monitoring and control stage. You're able to get that detail. You're able to know what's happening at time on your project. Now at closure, you're completing and you're going to close the project. So you look at the deploying the final version of the software. You are getting feedback from users and stakeholders and testers. You're knowing, okay, so they're checking through and saying, okay, you've done this, we were able to get this, no, we're not able to get this. You have all that details in as tasks for your close the project phase. You conduct what you call a post-mortem meeting to document lessons learned. Like I said, lessons learned are picked all through the life cycle of your project. But at the closing stage, you document it, you write it down. This went well, this did not go well. The one that went well, this was what happened. The one that didn't go well, this was what happened. You have all of that well documented. Then you release project resources and archive your project documents, organizational process assets. You archive your project documents. You write down everything and kind of label it. So you have your project management plan, your communication management, everything stuck into your archive. These days they're all e-copy. So you've got some shared drive somewhere or some cloud services where you store this document. Deliverables here are the comprehensive overview of the project, which shows your outcome and the outstanding items. So you have a final feedback that shows this is what we plan to achieve, this is what we achieved, these were the issues we had on the project. So you have a comprehensive overview of your project, and that is here. Also, you have lessons learned document. It shows all the lessons you've learned in that project. It shows all the things that might have gone wrong and what you did for it not to go wrong. So you have it all well saved out and spelled out. Lessons learned document on as part of the deliverables for the closing stage. Let's look at another project, development of a campus navigation app. So if you notice, we're now moving to more contemporary projects, developing an app, developing a campus navigation app. We're looking at things that will be more or less like day-to-day that with questions that can be asked. So always at initiation stage, we define what we want to do and look at the project data. That's what we do that a lot at the initiation stage. We look at the project, its objectives, its boundaries, the key deliverables that we want to have. The task is we're looking at the goals of the campus navigation app. Why do we want the campus navigation app? What will it do for us? So are we looking at indoor and outdoor maps? Are we looking at location? Are we looking at accessibility features? Will it tell us where to go to, when to go there? Will it give us indications on places to be in the campus and what are the likely closing time in this location? Which ones are open all day long? So you have all these kind of details in your task to define what's going to happen in a campus navigation app. You also identify and engage every stakeholder that will be required. Every stakeholder, like I said, you elicited all details of your stakeholders, student, campus facilities, management, lecturers, sometimes everybody that you can think about. Everybody, app developers, testers. Then you create a project charter that details the scope, the objective, and the stakeholder. You have a detailed charter that shows your scope, your objective, and your stakeholder. I think for us at this point, knowing the first basic thing for a project is very easy. Project charter and what should be inside. So initiation, we will have key deliverables, project charter, stakeholder register, and high-level risk register. That's always what you have at your initiation stage. always your project charter, your stakeholder register, your high-level risk management plan, because all of that helps you to actually move forward. And I reiterate, your project charter, that's what empowers you as a project manager to go ahead to shoot. Now we're at the planning stage. You develop a plan for the app, develop a plan, develop a project management plan. So the task here is define and draft a project management plan. So we are covering scope, schedule, cost, quality, stakeholder, everything you can think about in the project management plan. 10 knowledge areas. You have all of them as the task that you need to do here. You establish what's the software development methodology you want to use. How do I want to deliver this? Here you stated, for example, do you want to use Agile? Do you want to use Kanban? So there are a couple of very methodologies out there. Surely not waterfall. So you make a choice here. They develop the app staker specification and UI UX design prototype. You develop the app staker specifications at this stage, at the planning stage. What should my app have? Is it existing? If it's existing, what does the existing one have? So you define all of that detail here. You look at what design prototypes you want to use. UI UX means user interface and user experience. So you have an app. What will the users see when it's designed? What will they see? You assess your risk and you plan a risk response. You devise a mitigation plan. This is what you should do. Should you have this risk occur for the project? This is what you will do. So you have all of that well defined. Now, deliverables are your project management plan, your UI UX design prototypes, and your technical specification document. So to develop this campus navigation app, we're going to have as part of our deliverables a project management plan, a UI UX design prototype, and a technical specification document. That's what we're going to have. Your technical specification document, you're going to have things like your risk management plan and the likes inside. Technical specification, you're going to have every detail in terms of how do you want to handle your back end, how do you want to handle your database, how do you plan to handle stuff like payments and the likes. You will have that detail well spelled out in your planning stage. At the execution, you start building. Now, remember we said for this app, we're going to be using Agile, which means we're going to be doing, most probably maybe minimum viable product, we're going to be doing iterative delivery. So we're going to do small package and test, small package and test, small package and test. It doesn't mean that we're testing and releasing, no. But it just means we're doing small testing and small package and testing. In terms of tasks, you have to code the application based on design specification. So you have a design specification and technical specification. You have to start getting the app developers to write codes to meet up with that. We're also going to be conducting user testing sessions so that we can gather feedback and refine usability. So you have your users test what you're doing. So you get a feedback from them. So they easily quickly tell you, okay, hey, you're meant to be able to deliver one. But at the time we got there, it couldn't. So you have all these details well spelled out. You also have regular updates from the project team and stakeholders on the development project. Because you're using Agile, there's a likelihood that you might have the stand-up meeting daily, whereby you quickly talk about the three things which is most spoke about when you use Agile. What did you do? What went wrong, what are you going to do? So it's clear cut. This is what I did yesterday. I did X, Y, Z. This is what I'll do today. A, B, C. This is what went wrong when I did what I did yesterday. So you're talking to the things that are required, the things you've done, the things that you will do, and the things that might impact you from delivering what you want to do. The major deliverables at the execution stage is an application code and a test case and result. An application code and a test case and result. Sometimes at the planning stage, you have things that we call a persona. A persona. A persona just gives an overview of or an example of a likely user of the solution we're trying to define. So imagine we developed a persona or some personas for this campus navigation app. It will read as in back in planning stage, you read you have customer A who is 35 years old, who is tall and short, who is dark and light, and who wants to X. You have all of that listed as your persona. Okay, he wants to do this. So when he's using the campus navigation app, this is what the person is hoping to experience. The person would like to be able to, just go on the app and type and be able to find his way from his hostel to most probably the botanical garden within the school, or to the zoological garden, or to the library, or I mean the person types and he wants to be able to find out where there's space in the library and what time he or she should arrive in the library so that they can enjoy the space, depending. So you'll have what you call a persona when you're developing a software app at the planning stage. So at execution, you'll be ticking off against that. Okay, so based on what we want to design for this persona A, have we achieved it? Have we achieved it? Have we achieved this? So you have all of that at your execution stage. So deliverable, application code, test case, and result. At the monitoring and control stage, you track and adjust your developmental progress. Remember, we said we're using Agile, is iterative. So we're doing what have we achieved, where we, then you do the next phase, then you do next phase. So at this, the task is to continually monitor the development against your plan. So you've got a plan. Yeah, despite the fact that it's Agile, you've got a plan to say, I'm going to do A, I'm going to do B, I'm going to do C. I've just said that I will accommodate change faster than what I would in a waterfall. It means I'm not waiting for a change log and a control board. It means I'm just going to take my change, send it to the product owner, most probably, who sends to the development team, and that change is discussed over developmental meeting or the review meeting that they have. Just allow the time to discuss, okay, this person said they had X, Y, Z. Okay, so how can we resolve it? You have solution. Boom. Let's implement. That's what you have in the monitoring and control stage. So you track and adjust the development process. You track and adjust that progress. So what's happening? What do we need to do? How are we making the right move? So you continually monitor the development. You adjust your resources and timeline based on project needs. Because it's agile, you might tell okay, based on what you refine, you don't need 5 resources at this point. You need 3. You let go of 2 and promise you're going to call them back at 2 transfer dates, but you've also saved yourself some form of stress in the course of the project. Then you handle your change request efficiently. It's agile, change is handled on the go, not by change board, it's handled on the go. Now you can have it implemented by change board as well. Maybe what you've done is you've decided that because it's agile and you're kind of doing maybe an hybrid, you decide, okay, your change control board will meet always in an emergency throughout this project because you want to be agile. So it means when it is locked, you're not waiting to the day that change meeting will happen. Normally, you're meeting immediately on the next day. to discuss and see what it is. Deliverables here are updated project schedule and change logs. When you monitor and control, there's a likelihood that your schedule has changed. You have that implemented, and your your project schedule will be changed. So by reason of the change that you said that you want to have additional services, it might mean that your project will be elongated by a week. So that means you need to update your project schedule. It means you also need to provide change log. Change logs are basically what it means. You have your change well documented in your change log. You have it well documented always. That's what you have in your change log. So you can easily do a reference to it. Remember, your change log will have the reason for the change, if it's approved, denied, it has details of the impact that the change is going to have on your project. Then you move to closure for this campus navigation app. You finalize and release the project. So you release that project, release the app. So that means your most of it will be uploaded onto Play Store and App Store. And you have people to download it. So here you finalize the app, you deploy it to appropriate platform, you document the project outcomes and gather user acceptance. Now, like I tell people, Agile doesn't mean that we will not do documentation. It just means that we're not focusing on documentation. Unlike the typical project, we want to do that documentation every time. Remember the 10 management areas, we have a plan for each one of them. So you have multiple plans, always documented. Agile means on the go, I'm doing it, I write the documentation, but that documentation must be done. So you also write project outcomes, you gather user acceptance, people sign off and say, yes, we've delivered according to what we planned, according to the objective. They conduct a lessons learned session whereby we review what we've gone through and what was the impact, how did it affect the project, was it positive, are there things we need to pick up for future projects that will be coming? Might be similar, might be the same thing, but we need to write about it. Part of the deliverables here is the release document. So you released all your resources. You have some form of sign off that says, okay, resource A, software developer, is being released back to Steam. Java developer being released back to Steam. Database developer being released back to Steam. It just gives that detail of what it is. Then you have your project closure report. A report that just highlights summary that says, yeah, we're meant to deliver this social objective, we delivered this, this is what it is. You have it signed off and pronto, yeah, and you also have your lessons learned document. You have a lessons learned document where you've documented things that you've learned while that project was deployed. Now, we're going to go back to some form of soft skills for a project manager. This is most times a likely conversations that happen in a project management interview. So they want to know much more. What skills are you bringing to the table? Yes, you can deliver a project. Yes, you told them about initiation, told them about planning, told them about execution and monitoring. You told them about closure. But they need to see how effective you are. What are the essential skills that you have, that you possess to be able to be a better project manager? So number one would be leadership. How well can you lead? We're looking at the ability to guide, ability to inspire, ability to motivate your team so that they can achieve the project objective and goals. So you're inspiring, guiding, and motivating your team. You're guiding, you're inspiring, and you're motivating your team so that they can achieve the project goals. The importance of leadership as a skill set, as an essential skill for a project manager, is that it means that you essentially can manage teams. It means you can stand and and put them in the right frame what they need to do. It means you can resolve conflict issues that come up. It means you can ensure that the project moves according to the pace it should move and how it should move. That's what's essential as a project manager in terms of leadership. To see you as the head, someone that they can run into the issue and resolve their stuff. So it's key to have a leadership skill, essential to have a leadership skill as part of what is required as a project manager. Sorry, do you mind if we take another 5 minutes break before the last lap?
Okay.
Thank you. So we'll be back by 9:11. All right. Are we all back? Uche, Stanley, and Taiwo.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Taiwo's back. What of Stanley and Uche?
Yeah, me.
Stanley's back. Uche is the last man standing.
I've always been here. Oh.
Like I said, you don't want to miss any bit of this. So back to the grind. Essential skills. What's expected of us as a project manager. So aside the fact that you can do the talk, walk the work, make the project happen, key skills is being able to lead the team. You're able to guide the team, you're able to influence your team, able to motivate your team so that the strategic goal of that or strategic goal project objective are achieved by you leading the team rightly. So essentially, you're looking at being able to resolve conflict. Remember, we spoke about conflict management, being able to manage conflict within your team, being able to manage conflict with stakeholders as well. So you're ensuring that everything is worked out well, so that at the end of the day, your project just moves on smoothly. Another key uh, skills, and I'll say in a couple of interviews, I've been asked what are the essential or what are the key skills that I have that I'll be bringing on board. And most times, for me, I mention communication first. And I'll tell you why I do that before I explain what communication is. I believe communication is very important in the project. It cuts across everything. So it cuts across your uh, planning, stakeholder management. It cuts across human resource. It cuts across risk. It cuts across um, cost as well. Because if you are unable to communicate everything, you haven't done anything. So even if you have the right risk plan and response, you have the right, you have all your stakeholders well identified. If you haven't gotten your communication plan sorted, forget. It means you'll have something missing somewhere that can derail. So communication basically is being able to write and speak about your project. So at a goal, you're expected as a project manager to be met anywhere and should be able to give quick updates, quick summary on your project. You're able to say X, Y, Z. So on this project, this is where we are, this is what we've achieved, this is where we ought to be, and we're there, or we're not, or we're ahead of it. These are the issues we're having, this was happening with cost. On the spot, you're able to tell your stakeholders what's happening in your project. So for me, communication is pretty key, exceptionally important in your project. It's something that you need to have details for. In terms of important, it's critical for articulating, for speaking through your project goal. So if you have that communication skill, you can speak about your project goal. You can speak about performance. You can speak about responsibilities, team members. You can speak about expectation. You can speak about feedback to the team, to stakeholders, your project sponsor. You have a reasoning behind every form of decision they are sending to your stakeholder. So you have some all-round form of engagement with your stakeholders. That's what you do with communication. Essential skill. And remember, it's verbal and written, oral and written. Be able to type well, concise report. Now, remember, as a project manager, we need to understand how to communicate. So, for me, majorly in reporting projects, nobody's looking for the long write-ups. Sometimes it's in pictorial view, infographics is used a lot these days. So you have some form of infographics that state X, Y, Z, A, B, C. This is what needs to be done, or this is what we've done. Maybe a pie chart, a bar chart. You kind of put a measurement around it. So you need to be able to communicate that to your stakeholder. Another skill that you need to have is planning, being able to sequence your activity. Remember I said work breakdown structure is the smallest work package. You now need to sequence that as a plan. So in your schedule, you're sequencing your plan. So you have 1.1, 1.1.1, or 1.1 to 1.2 to 1.3. So you have each step following each other. What's next after this? What do I do after this? After developing my front end, am I moving to back end? Am I moving to database? You need to put one after the other. You need to develop your resource plan. In planning, you need to develop your human resource plan, procurement plan. You need to manage task assignment. So a major skill is you being able to plan, being able to say, okay, yes, I think I'll need 5 resources, I think this is how I'll be able to use those resources. You need to be able to have that detail. You need to be able to manage task and assignment, which is in planning. So you need to show that, yeah, I can plan very well. And the importance of that is that you're able to outline your project scope. You're able to identify the resources you require to deliver your project at any point in time, and you're able to set a realistic timeline. In project management, and basically in delivering, you have what we call the smarts. Your project itself and where you're delivering needs to be specific, needs to be measurable, needs to be achievable, needs to be realistic, and needs to be time bound. The schedule will show you your time bound. Specific tells you about your scope. Measurable means you've got indices to measure against, the key performance indices. Achievable means part of your scope and project charter has shown that this is something that can be delivered, and you also have a risk plan to it. Realistic, same thing. So you've put every detail in it. Also, a skill to have as a project manager is risk management. There will always be risk in a project. And remember, risk is something that is continuous in a project. As you move stages in project, you will identify new risks and you will plan for them. You will plan, manage, and execute that risk. So you will identify new risk, you quickly plan for it, you will have a risk management plan and mitigation strategy for it. So this is how to respond to this risk. You will have that every time. Every time you will have that too. As a risk, as someone with risk management skills, you will be able to anticipate potential problems, but you also be able to have strategies that can be implemented. Not that you're just anticipating that there's likely that this might go wrong. You have strategies that you can implement to mitigate the impact, which is the most important thing in risk management. Yeah, it's a potential that is going to happen. There's a probability that it's going to happen. It's being able to stop that impact or reduce that impact that matters. That's what matters. It's like going on a trip. I'm going to travel, and you identify there's a risk that I might have a tire burst. So if you look at that and you identify that as a risk, it's either you've gone ahead to buy another tire, replace the tire, and ensure that you bought another spare, which means you've done a double. Or it's in the morning, you decide that, okay, let me quickly change it to the spare because the spare is also good. And the moment I eat some part of the route, I will find a way to buy an extra tire. So you need to have a plan. You need to have a plan. That's what happens in risk. You need to have a plan. So you need to ensure that there's project stability and success at every point in time. So you've anticipated what might go wrong. You've implemented how to respond to those things that might go wrong. Another major skill to have is negotiation. Negotiation comes in varied forms. So in your conflict resolution, you might be using negotiation. In your human resource planning, you might be using negotiation. In your communication planning, implementation, you might be using negotiation. So for me, throughout your project, you actually might be negotiating. So you are looking at conflict. How do I manage this conflict? How do I align my resources with project needs? How do I manage my stakeholders? You're doing constant engagement. So you're negotiating to find out how to do things in such a way that your project will not derail. So you can secure resources from other teams. Yes, you have a project as a document, but it's easy for you when you have negotiation. And for me, like I said, communication. So you can walk up to the project manager and say, Mr. X, I have a charter that says we're going to do this project and we'll be needing your team member, but you're also able to negotiate release for that team member. So you say, okay, it'll be good for you to release, yes, Mr. This person to us is the most important person in your team, but it will help this project move faster, which means if we move faster, we'll deliver in time and it can return to the team. If you give us so and so person who is also very important in your team, yes, you might not deliver faster because of the person's skills, but it also means that you can't have the person back. So when you also want to do something extra, yes, you will be affected. But if you've given us the best hand or maybe second best hand, we will do things faster, you will have them back, and your own operational requirements are met easily. You find some icebreaker, cracking point in negotiation. So you're able to manage contract. You're able to ensure that all your stakeholders are satisfied. That's what you do with negotiation. You're able to engage them. You're able to reach a meeting point at every point in time when you have conversations with your stakeholders, with your vendors, with people that you're working with, your resources on that project. Another skill to have is critical thinking and problem solving. You need to be able to think ahead in a project. You need to be able to think through every likelihood. Remember that we've done risk analysis. Critical thinking will be used effectively always with risk analysis. You're able to think through what do you think could go wrong, what's happening. You're able to assess problems. You're able to provide solutions for those problems. So you're not just looking at a possible problem that might happen on your project. You're also looking at how best to resolve those problems, which is very key. To be able to look at an effective solution. The important is it's crucial because at every challenge that might arise in the project, you already have some form of informed decision that will keep the project on track. You're able to quickly put things where they should be. That's what happens with critical thinking. You're able to say, okay, yes, since I've thought through this, maybe we'll do this. You'll have used that effectively in your risk response strategy, your risk mitigation strategies. You have used your critical thinking and problem solving. You will have looked at what's the likelihood of, for example, we're working in an office. If network shuts down in that office, how do we keep on delivering our service? Your risk response might be, yes, if there's no network, you've done it in such a way that even when there's network, data is updated every now and then. And you've set it in such a way that if data can't be updated every time, your individual team members should be able to work in isolation maybe for 3 hours, for 2 hours, for 1 hour before they do an upload. Or you plan the risk response to say when that happens, we're going to move to the next building, the floor beneath, or we're going to move to a temporary office. You thought of a solution. Back in the days, I knew that when people work on projects, what they also do is for network issues that they plan for as a risk, they have some Wi-Fi box. So imagine like what Taiwan has gone through today. Network has been bad. What risk strategy you could have planned for would have been to have a Wi-Fi and another internet box close by. So If his mobile is not working, you switch on the Wi-Fi. If the Wi-Fi is not working, it switches on the internet box. If both are not working with his mobile, maybe that risk response strategy is defined. It will take him 20 minutes. He will go close by to somewhere else, an office whereby there will be network. So for me, in time past, I know I've run into issues whereby I was meant to send a report. Like I told you, my report goes out every Sunday, and the report has been ready at 9, and I found out that network is down, so I can't send the report. So I've given myself 30 minutes. If that network doesn't come up in 30 minutes, I'm doing a drive down to the office. Office is 45 minutes away, but I'm going to do a drive down. Yes, it's going to take me much more, but I'm just going to do a drive down. 45 minutes to the office. I'll plug it in, send the report for 5 minutes back to the house. Yes, it would have taken 1 hour, 30 minutes of my time, but I'll have sent the report. At other times, I found cruise offices that were 20 minutes away. So one way or the other, I found a risk response that I could implement. That's what happens with critical thinking and problem solving. Quickly being able to address challenges that might occur. Another key essential skill is cost management. Our ability to manage budget and finances in a project. Yes, you have a budget, you have money to spend. But as a project manager, you need to be able to manage how that money is spent. You need to be able to track it. So if you have amount apportioned for tasks, you need to be sure that the amount apportioned is what you are spending, and you're not spending above that. Because if you keep spending above each line item, you'll end up overshooting your budget. So it means you haven't delivered your project to cost, scope, schedule, quality, because you've missed an indices. You've spent more than it should be. So, for example, if there should be a return on investment of 100%, which means you're meant to spend 1 million naira, so your company can make 2 million naira back. But you overshot the budget by spending 1.7 million or 2 million naira or 2.5 million naira. You actually might have put the company in debt. So you need to understand how to manage finances and the budgets that you have. Which is why I said part of the indices is a cost performance index. You have a cost baseline. You have a cost baseline that you can measure your cost against. You can measure what's the performance of your cost against your cost baseline. You always measure against your cost baseline. So in cost management, you are ensuring that the project is not exceeding budget constraints at any point. You are not exceeding budget constraints, and financial resources are used efficiently. So every form of financial resources are used efficiently to ensuring that you are maximizing the use of your financial resources. So imagine if you procured or you leased an extra equipment, you're ensuring that that equipment is used effectively. So, for example, you're meant to grade the road, and that's your project, and you don't have a grader, you want to go and lease a grader. Because you want to maximize that, you most probably have looked at the cost of that, and you've requested for one extra driver, which basically means you decide that you're going to do 12 hours shift each. So one runs 12 hours, goes to sleep, the other takes off and does the next 12 hours. So one way or the other, you're maximizing that equipment you've leased. It might mean that you have in quote, it might mean some that you've increased your cost, because it means you'll be paying 2 drivers. But you might be saving on the time and the expense of that grader. So if that grader was initially planned to do 30 days, working just maybe 8 hours or 12 hours, if you've done the 12 to 12, it means you've halved it. So it means instead of paying for 30 days, you're paying for 15 days. And most times, cost of resources, human resource, is not as high as cost of lease of equipment sometimes. Sometimes it might be higher, but in terms of resource to fulfill that, it might not be. So you might just weigh cost of additional resource to drive, which might be cheaper than you having to run your grader for 30 days. So you run your grader for 15 days, and for example, hypothetically, you are leasing the grader per day for 30,000. You are paying the drivers 5,000. If you are done a month straight, you'll have paid 30 times 30, 900, 5 times 30, 150. You are paid 1,050,000. If that you do 15 days, you are paid 30 times 15, 450. Well, I paid 10,000 times 15, 150. So you'd have ended up paying 600,000 as against paying 1,050,000. You'd have saved yourself or your company for 4,000 and 400,000 and yeah, like you are spent by 450,000 easily. So that's part of being able to manage. So if you have a skill that has to do with cost management, it shows that you're efficient as a project manager. There's also time management, being able to manage your schedule very well, being able to manage your deliverables so that you don't overshoot time. Remember, projects managed against cost, schedule, scope, quality. If you're going to overshoot time, it means your schedule performance index is negative. It means you're delivering beyond the time that you should deliver. So your ability to manage that time effectively for yourself and for your team means you're good at the job. So you're ensuring that milestones are met and projects are completed within when you've allocated for them to be completed. So that's one key skill. Also is quality management. Remember I said initially we had cost, scope, and schedule as the three focal points for project management success. But we also have things like quality included into it. Because if you deliver according to cost, schedule, and scope, and quality is bad, you haven't delivered the project. So now quality is very key. And that means you need to understand the standards, what is expected in terms of quality for that end product. You need to know what it is. Does it meet your stakeholders' expectation? Does it meet the standard compliance requirement? So if the standard compliance, global standard requirement, does it meet that requirement? Are you delivering based on what should be? So having a quality management skill as a project manager is also pretty important. There's also adaptability. It speaks to agile. A trait, it means you're flexible in handling changes and unexpected situations. Yes, you're going to do it according to the framework, but it means you are easily able to quickly, undo those changes. You're not drooling over the change. You're not engaging your stakeholder or your sponsors about the change, which might mean you lose time. You're not trying to tell them, no, this can't work. It's not going to work. You're looking at change and say, okay, let's evaluate the change. So having the adaptability to manage things means you will be able to manage what's happening in terms of things. It's vital that you can easily adjust changes in scope, resources, objectives, while your project is not suffering. While your project is able to gain the appropriate momentum. So having the skill to adapt is very key. Also, there's technological proficiency. I've heard in times past that a project manager does not need to be a subject matter expert. Yes, I agree, but you need to understand what you're working on. Because if you're deficient in that technology, you will miss. There's likely that you miss some things. So if you don't understand, for example, we spoke about developing a custom app for the campus. If you don't understand the technology behind developing the front end and the back end, the developers could sell you a gimmick. So you need to be familiar with what technology it is. You need to be familiar with project management software and related technologies as well. So part of what you will have to learn in your spare time will be, ability to use tools like Slack, Trello, Jira, something to be able to manage your project. You don't need to know all of it. So if you know one or two, it's fine. You need to be able to say, okay, yes, I can use a project management tool. Especially remember that the world is now a lot much more hybrid. So if you get a project management role, you might actually be working from outside the office, and you're expected to be able to update project status. Unlike when you're in the office, that maybe it's an email. Project status might be something that is on Trello or Jira. So it becomes something you need to be able to do. You need to be able to manage that effectively. So importance of doing that is it enhances your own efficiency and accuracy in planning, in executing, in monitoring, and reporting your project. If you have technological proficiency, you are easily able to plan. So in reality, it might be that you need to build a schedule using Microsoft Project. Because you're technologically savvy, you're easily able to use Microsoft Project. Or it might be Oracle P6 planning tool. If you're technology savvy, you easily will be able to plan that project. So it's being able to also have additional soft skills as a project manager beyond being able to deliver the project, beyond being able to identify the project, beyond being able to manage your stakeholders. Technological proficiency or technical proficiency is also very key. It's also very, very key, which means it shows that you are someone that is indispensable. Lastly, the skill for a project manager is stakeholder management. This the ability to engage your stakeholder. Remember that you've identified first at initiation, high level, who are your stakeholders. Having the skill to manage them is key. It means you can engage them, you can communicate with them, you can set realistic timelines with them, you can manage their expectations. You're able to manage of everybody involved in the project. Now, this is very crucial because it helps you to maintain a positive relation with a lot of people on your project. You're able to maintain positive relations. You're able to have a mutual satisfaction among your stakeholders. So at any point in time, you're able to manage what's happening. You're able to walk through it. You're able to have the normal either corridor quick gist, a phone call, any form of conversation or communication you've identified for that stakeholder. You're able to run through it. You're able to do those discussions. So at the end of the day, you're carrying your stakeholder along. So in terms of skills expected of you as a project manager, you've got the stakeholder management skill. Now, in an interview, you might not be asked to list 12 essential skills. You might not even be asked what is an essential skill for a project manager. But somewhere along the line, you're expected to be able to speak around it. It might not be a direct question. It might be you just speaking around the project and saying, so one of the core things that I enjoy doing and I thrive in is being able to communicate to my stakeholders. So you remember what I said? I love talking about communication because it cuts across a lot of things. One of the other things it does for me is when I'm speaking about communication as a core skill, I've also kind of touched on stakeholder management. Because for me, you really can't speak about communication without stakeholder management. Because who are you communicating with in a project? Stakeholders. So the people you are communicating with in the project, stakeholders. So the fact that I pick communication, do I really enjoy it, means I've also kind of touched on stakeholder management. So I enjoy communication, being able to converse with my team and stakeholders, being able to find the niche of what we need to speak about, how to speak with them, what works for each of my stakeholders. That actually just helps. It helps to talk through it. So it's likely that you can be asked that, and so you can also pick any of these other ones. You've got negotiation skills, you've got a leadership skill. You're able to manage your team. Negotiation will mean you can manage conflict, you can manage stakeholder as well. It means you can go and ask your stakeholder for release of resources. Yes, you have a project tracker, but because you can negotiate, you can find ways to get the best of what you need to get from the team or from within the organization so that your project can move. It might be being able to negotiate to your team to say, okay, hey, if we're meant to deliver this, maybe we should work an hour extra every day, to meet sometime. You can find a way around different things if you understand negotiation. So for me, these are essential skills as a project manager. So beyond the core knowing the initiation, the planning, the execution, the monitoring and control, and closure of a project, you also need to have the soft skill. You need to be able to speak around it at an interview. You need to be able to converse and mention things around it while you're being asked, how do you develop a project or how do you manage a project? Softly while managing the project, you can put in part of your soft skill. Say I like managing the project because I will have engaged my project sponsor at the start, gotten the necessary project charter, ensure that charter is signed off for me to kickstart the project, and I'll have a meeting with the resources as I've identified along with stakeholders at my initiation stage. So you've kind of done a summary around initiation and you move to planning. Okay? So for the kickoff meeting, I just assemble the team and we have all the plans being churned out. So we have our basic technology area plans, being constructed. So you have your cost plan, you have your human resource plan, your risk plan, you have your schedule plan, you have, so you're able to talk around the plans you're working with. That's at the end of the day, you have a comprehensive project management plan to start and run with that project. Then you can talk about moving into execution, how you land with the execution, and you can do some bit of backflip, how you also start monitoring and control, how you start looking at risk and identifying risk and evaluating risk at every point in time, so that you have a risk response plan. So basically, you're able to speak through the initiation, the planning, the execution, monitoring and control, and closure of the project. And you also try to infuse what are the skills you have that makes this easy for you. So sometimes you're not also waiting to when they ask you what are the essential skills you should have as a project manager. You mentioned it somewhere in the middle of your conversation, the kind of core skills that you use. So I've been talking about conflict resolution. Like I've mentioned, I enjoy negotiation. So when there's a conflict, I try to find out what the conflict is. I can do a quick half-grade needs analysis, what exactly is happening, and I found out how to solve it. So I go back to what's happening. You're able to speak around what it is you do: negotiations, stakeholder management, planning. Just in a go through just answering one question. So for me, it's key understanding each and every one of those concepts. Anyhow, so at this point, we've come to the end of the slides. I would love us to ask questions. If you're not asking questions, I'm going to bombard everybody with questions for the few minutes we have left. So I think today I'll start with Uche. Uche, do you mind belling the cat for us in terms of what we've spoken about over the course of this class?
Is he belling the cat with respect to asking questions?
Yes, asking questions, yes.
Okay, I'm just brooding over the whole thing to actually figure out where
Okay,
the
so do you want to move that to
you were
Stanley?
explanatory enough, so I do not have a confusion anyway. So
Okay.
as I get question, I'll try.
All right. So Stanley, over to you. Now I said that I ask you guys questions. Don't worry.
For now, I don't think I have any questions.
All right. What about Taiwo?
None for now. So I'm just trying to check my notes. Maybe I can
see some. Okay, it's not a problem. For me, what I'd like to find out from you guys is when conducting a feasibility study as a project manager, what are the things you will consider?
the objective of the project first.
Yes. What else?
Come again with the question. Sorry.
When you're considering the feasibility study of a project, what are the things you will consider? What will you consider when you're considering feasibility of a project?
I think you look at the components of the project charter with respect to the availability, the cost availability, the stakeholders' involvement, who are they, and the availability of personnel, and then the scope or would be scope of the project.
All right, don't worry, you've tried. So in feasibility studies, you basically will look at the technical, you look at the financial, and you look at any form of constraint, time constraint. Because feasibility studies is a bit high level. It flows into your project charter. It's done as initiation. So you're looking at, so what high level? What do we do in terms of technical, in terms of finance, in terms of time? That's what we look at as feasibility studies. What do you do to appoint your project team?
What do you do?
Yeah, to appoint your project team.
You first identify the needed skills and needed stakeholders. Then you now allocate them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
Anybody wants to add anything else?
No, no for me.
Remember, you know the project objective already from the charter. You know what you want to achieve. So you have some form of breakdown on who you need as a resource to deliver your project. All you need to do next is look at the roles and responsibilities. So what will this person's role? What will this person's responsibility be? Because remember, that team is going to help you to deliver the project. You also need to look at how do you get them? Are there resources that are available enough, or you need to do some form of hiring? So you need to look at what time do you have to hire if the project is starting. How long will it take you to hire? Do you have another means of maybe secondment? So if you've seen a few of the adverts that happens online sometimes, you see that some organizations will put there that this position is for secondment. The reason why they're doing that is they're trying to minimize the time it will take for a new person to integrate into the system. The new person will have to understand the processes of that organization. They rather deal with a secondment so that the person coming in is someone that's internal. He already understands what happens with the organization. So the person is just going to fit into the box. It's just another means of securing a resource without going to negotiate with the manager. So you just put an advert out and say you want the secondment. The person applies, you do a quick interview, and that's it. What do we have in a stakeholder register?
the name of the stakeholder, the designation,
Yes.
uh, and the expectation.
Yes. There are other things. Contact information. Because that shows how you're going to reach them in terms of communication. What will be their roles? What's their interest in that project? Which will lead us to level of influence, or how they can affect that project. Those are things that we will have in our stakeholder register.
What of their power and interest?
Yeah, that's the level of influence.
Level of influence, okay. And the communication strategy or something, or plan.
Yeah, so their roles and interests will help us with the way you want to communicate. Remember that at initiation is when we'll have a stakeholder register.
Yeah.
High level is when we'll get to stakeholder management plan that will now develop communication for them. So this is how I want to engage this stakeholder.
Stakeholder.
This is
Okay.
how best to engage the stakeholder. This is the format that the person enjoys. At the stakeholder at the planning stage, you kind of flesh out a lot of the high levels you have in project initiation. To your risk management plan that basically just have outlined risk, impact, probability, and a few strategy will now be much more detailed into what likely will happen and how could you likely go wrong in detail. That's what you now have in planning. So remember, initiation is a lot of high level. It's more high level than what you have in your normal documentation. Anyhow, thank you, everybody. Let me not take too much of the evening. What I'll most probably do is, so I'll do some engagement with Manny. I'll send a few chats and questions, and we could do a few back and forth to just do reviews. Then I'm sure that I'm not sure how far you've gone with your other project. There should be capstone project as well, so you can look at that.
Okay, so there'll be one more. Sorry, there'll be one more session for this training. So, the session is would be for teaching them the tools. So, for instance,
Okay.
We've talked about what breakdown structure. We need to show them how to create one.
All right.
We've talked about Microsoft projects. We've talked about Gantt chart. We need to show them how to create them. We've talked about project schedule. We need to tell them how to create them so that by the time they are given a project, they already know what to do and how to go about it.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
So I don't know what I don't know what the availability is for next weekend.
Can we do Sunday again? I enjoy Sundays though. You guys don't mind.
Stanley, Taiwo, Uche, does Sunday work for you guys?
It's okay by me. Sunday, yeah. Yeah, same time.
Okay. So after the Sunday class, you guys need to start a project. Do you want to finish your BA project before you start your project management project?
Yeah, I think that'll be better.
I just hope that you guys won't forget what has been taught before.
I think we'll be doing chat before they forget.
Let's see what happens after the final class now.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to give you guys access to these slides on the portal. So aside the recording, you can also go through these documents. Then next week Sunday, same time, all the artifacts that has been taught in this class, you guys will be taught how to create them. If you don't have Microsoft project, you need to get it before the class. So if you don't have Microsoft, you need to get it before the class, but every other every other thing can be taught on Excel. The Gantt chart, you can we can also maneuver and create it and teach how to create a project schedule on Excel. But in some cases, you might find yourself working in a place where what they use is Microsoft Project.
Microsoft Project.
I mean, you can do the same thing on Excel, really. So if you don't have a Microsoft Project, then we'll do it on Excel next week Sunday.
Okay.
I have Microsoft Project.
Okay, Stanley, you can liaise with Taiwo to show you how to get it. It's like Taiwo has a way of getting these stuffs.
The
No,
one is
not really.
it's not downloading.
It's not downloaded.